All right, so we're out on a walk. This is towards the end of the session, and one of the biggest problems or things that the guardian wants is to have more control with Puggy. And so I fitted him up with a martingale collar. Now, pugs and short-nosed dogs shouldn't have a regular neck collar. That's okay, because it's they have a difficulty breathing. So we're using a martingale collar, and I've wrapped it around his chest and then through the small loop of the martingale, so when we correct, it's on the chest. I have a lot of people watch my videos, they'll tell me you're doing the wrong collar unless I explain that. So in this video, we're going to go over a couple of things, walking tips. So number one for him, because he gets really bananas if he sees another dog. So if we see another dog, the first thing we want to do is increase the distance. If we ignore him reacting, we're going to cause him to get more aggressive, which is what he's been doing. So if I'm walking down the street and I see a dog way at the end of the block, I would either practice a U-turn and turn away, walk down a driveway, walk around a car, somewhere where I can block his vision. But if I keep on walking towards the dog, and my thought as a human is, we're not going to interact with that, I'm going to walk around that dog. He doesn't see it that way. He says, we're walking towards danger. And so in his mind, I think that he thinks he needs to be protective of the guardian. He was maybe a little bit under-socialized as a puppy, but it's okay. His guardians have done a really good job in a lot of other ways. So sit. There we go. All right, so the 5 rules I have for a structured walk, and this is not an everyday walk. Now, down at the end of the hill, there's a park where he gets to run on a long leash. So it's the perfect situation for him. So we put the martingale around, so we're gonna put the leash on, put the martingale on, put the small loop at his spine, then run it around his chest, right behind both front wheels. There's a dog running free over there. There we go. This actually might be a good situation. So he's easily redirectable while the other dog gets called back inside. So that tells me it's a somewhat mild pace, which is good. So that's kind of an alerting, hey, I see the dog over there. Yes, I know. Okay, so basically, yes, but the dog went back inside. Sit, sit. So you see, as soon as he stops looking at it and thinking about it, he stops reacting. Well, temporarily. Okay, so
I'm trying not to laugh.
We want to right around his chest. This is great. This gives us an example of seeing what we're dealing with. So now I'm going to turn him around this way. And you can't see it. You see how quickly the barking subsided. So that's a good sign. Okay, so the 5 rules for a structured walk. We're going to put the leash on him, and we're going to pick a side, right side or left side, consistently for the short term so that he understands this is where I'm supposed to be on a walk. That's a good sit. All right, so I would like his shoulder aligned with my hip. If I let the dog go in front, whoever's in front is in charge to a dog. So if I let him walk way in front, he's going to be more reactive. But if I have him in the heel position next to me, he's going to feel like I'm more in charge. And this is a great way to demonstrate leadership. So I want his shoulder aligned with my hip. If he gets in front of my toes, then before he gets there, I want to do a correction. Now, the correction is really quick up and down. We want to take the tension off of the leash before it gets tense. So it should be that fast. Don't pull his feet up off the ground unless you absolutely have to. You'll get better dexterity of your movements as you've been practicing. So rule number 1, stay in your position. Rule number 2, yep.
You had a little flyer come down.
That's okay, as long as it's not a phone call or text, careful with your finger. There we go. All right, so rule number 2, this arm needs to go real relaxed. A lot of people, when they're walking the dog, let's go this way, buddy. They start doing this, and they're pulling the dog in position. That will activate his opposition reflex. So the correction is a quick pop up and down, and that's it. So for this leash, I would wrap it around my whole hand again, so it's a short leash, but not a tense leash. All right, so rule number 1, stay in your position. Rule number 2, your arm is nice and relaxed. If he lags from behind, we do not pull. We let our arm go limp and just keep walking. The rig will get him coming with us. Rule number 3 is the correction is, again, a quick pop up and down. Rule number 4 is no stopping and sniffing. Now, a dog can sniff. Say a dog couldn't sniff would be cruel, but if he stops to sniff and I stop with him, then he's telling me what to do. So on the way to the park, he has to listen and pay attention to me. And then rule number 5 is I don't let male dogs mark if they have territorial issues or reactivity issues, because that's marking territory and claiming territory. That's something a leader does, and it'll make him more reactive around other dogs in that area. So I let him pee before the walk, at the end of the walk, but not on the walk. Now, a couple other things. Every once in a while, what I like to do is practice and teach a dog to walk to sit down and pay attention to me. So what I do is, as I'm walking, every once in a while, I just stop. My rule is I usually do it between each driveway as I'm walking. So I'm walking, and I just go like, sit, sit, and then I continue walking. So if between every driveway on your walk, yes, you want to control the cars too. But that focus exercise I showed you inside might be something you might want to practice. He's very easily distracted from focus. Sit. So if you stop in between each driveway, somewhere chaotically, he never knows where, you might practice 25, 30, 50 sits on a walk. Well, then after a while, he starts paying attention. You're looking at your foot. Are you going to stop? Oh, if she stops, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to get a treat. And then you walk up to a neighbor and you stop and the dog just sits on its own like that. And you're like, oh my God, your dog used to go crazy. What happened? You're like, of course, we hired doggone problems. They've showed us how to fix this problem. But we're just teaching the dog this is what we want you to do. All right, now the last little thing I'm going to go over is on this walk. Now we can do the correction up and down, and that's what I would prefer to teach the dog with a loose leash. And that's what I was starting to talk to the guardian about. And I'm going to show you the approach here, which will be different than the 5 rules I just went over. But a lot of people say if the dog runs in front of you, you should just turn and walk the other way. That's the second step. Most people miss the first step, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to have the guardian stay here with the camera. I'm going to walk a little bit away so you can see it. So I'm going to let him get in front. Puggers. Let's redirect. That time he didn't react to the car because I was redirecting him before he had a chance to. So as I'm walking, Puggers, up. Don't give it to him for jumping up on you. So what I would do is do this when there's nobody around, there's no dogs, there's no cars, there's nothing for him to react to, and just walk and let him, as soon as he walks in front, hold the treat, make a kissing sound or say his name. When he comes back, I usually use that kind of the lure like this. So I kind of lead him back here, do a U-turn, and then put him in a sit. So this way you teach him, but wait for the leash to get tense. What you're trying to teach him is when the leash gets tense, if you turn around and go back to the human, you get a treat. That's just the human, that's not the dog this time. Sit. Sit. Now one other thing that I'm going to show the guardian to do, and I'm going to have her step in the street if she could, walk across the street. I'm going to show you, keep filming me, just go, or actually our film guardian. We have 2 guardians. I refer to everybody as guardian. So you're going to walk that way.
Am I going to get hit? No. Thanks.
Yeah. I'm going to show you how to do a U-turn. So if I see another dog, I might see the dog before my dog sees it. So if I have a U-turn programmed in, maybe not quite that far. You stay in the street, back up if we need to, if a car comes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be walking that way. When I want to turn, I'm going to turn sideways to him, and I'm going to offer a treat like this. It's actually, this direction would be easier to see. So if I'm walking down the street and I see a dog, before he sees it, I want to give him a turn command. So I do like, turn. Turn. So I say the word turn every time. So I go about 4 steps that way, turn, and then do about 4 steps the other direction, turn. So eventually you're doing an oval. But it teaches the dog that sometimes the human just turns for no apparent reason, and if I turn with them, I get a treat. Well, this way, if we only turn when we see a dog, well, we turn, he's like looking around to see the dog. So this way, the human just likes to turn. We turn, get the dog away from visually looking at the other dog, so we can stop the reaction before it even happens. Now, the last thing that you can do is, again, I was showing the guardians inside how to teach your dog to focus on command. So I'm walking down the street, and he sees a car. Focus. We don't want to give it to him for jumping up, but eventually you can get to the dog to focus, and he'll like walk down the street looking up at you as opposed to looking in front of you. Since dogs can only focus on one thing at a time, this is a great way to redirect your attention, and he has a pretty mild case of it. Some dogs, when they see another dog or whatever it is, they're not giving up no matter what. For him, it was pretty easy to lure him away. So now I understand we don't have a dog nearby. Well, we had one temporarily, but even then it was fairly easy to redirect him. So the last little tip is not a problem for him, but anybody else that's watching this, a lot of people think excited is happy for your dog, and when we start telling them, you want to go for a walk? You want to go for a walkie? They get the dog all crazy. And then they go outside and the dog's energy is crazy. Or when they put the leash on, it gets crazy. That's classical conditioning. The leash going on represents the excitement of a walk. So one of the things I'd like the guardian to do at times when she's not going to take the dog out for a walk is practice getting him out of the porch, walking towards the car, or whatever it is. Now for him, when he recognizes we're getting in the car, because normally we drive to the park so we don't encounter any dogs. So that gets him all excited. So the instant I see him showing any excitement, we're going to stop, go back in the house, and we're going to sit down, and we're not going to give him any commands. We're going to wait for him to calm down on his own. When he's calm, we get back and we put this on, and we practice this again. But we do this at times where we're not actually intending of taking him to the walk. So number one, we desensitize him. Every time the leash goes on doesn't mean guaranteed we're going to the walk. Number two, we take away the frustration for the human, because the human has a very busy schedule. And we're always on the go. And so we're like, okay, I have a half an hour to walk the dog. And then the dog doesn't cooperate, we get frustrated with the dog. Well, if you have 10 minutes, practice putting the dog, because you know that you're not even gonna make it to the car before he gets anxious. So you might get 1 or 2 repetitions, then you sit down and he's like, oh man, every time the leash goes on, we're not going for a walk. After a while, I was like, is this another drill? Man, we're always drilling about going, oh, we're walking. And you almost surprise them for walking because we desensitize. So what we'd like to do is try to do like, initially, every 5 times we're actually going to take him for a walk, we practice 5 times, or every 1 time we take him for a walk, we practice 5 times of leashing him, getting in the car, or wherever it is, and stopping at the point that he starts to get excited. All right, you can come a little bit closer. We sit. Sit. So this is Super Puggers, AKA, and these are some tips and tricks that you can use to keep your dog from going crazy on a walk.